guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be reacting to a video called 3 Ways Dutch Independence is Different. This is from a channel called Greg Shapiro, and it's kind of weird to think of the Dutch and the Netherlands as the as gaining their independence from someone, just because I believe when you, at least I know I do, when I think of the Dutch and the Dutch Empire, I'm thinking of them as the colonizers. So it's kind of weird to think of, oh yeah, I tend to forget they also gained their independence from, I think, one country. But let's check it out and comment, like, and subscribe.
The Dutch. These days you might know them for skating to work, not taking shit from Donald Trump flunkies, and grab him by the pony. But
what?
You may also know the Dutch for Wi-Fi, WeTransfer, the first microscope, and the Declaration of Independence.
I didn't know any of that. What?
In America, the Declaration of Independence is pretty well known. Everybody knows the phrase, "We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. Women not included. Men does not apply to all men. That they are endowed by their creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." The Declaration of Independence is so well known that it is abbreviated DOI for DOI. But the Dutch have their own Declaration of Independence that came almost 200 years earlier. So, difference number one.
That's why they
the Dutch Declaration, Het Plakkaat van Verlatingen.
What I want to point out, I'm going to rewind this.
The date. The Dutch Declaration, Het Plakkaat.
The Het Plakkaat van whatever, but it's like the plaque, as in a plaque, and that's the independence Bible book. I don't know, writing, but it's funny that it's called plakkaat as a plaque.
Van Verlatingen is from 1581.
Pretty old.
Back in the good old days when Spain was known for the Inquisition. The Dutch were known for the freedom of expression. One day, Spain said, "Hey, Netherlands, you're part of Spain now."
That was kind of weird.
And the Dutch were like, no, actually, we're independent. The rest of the world said, "Independent? That's not a thing." And the Dutch were like, "It is now." What followed was an enormous war. How long was the American Revolution? 7 years? The Dutch Revolution was the 80 Years' War. Why don't more people know about the document that started it all? Difference.
Again, it's because people they tend to forget that the Netherlands gained their independence from someone.
Number 2, the language. Het Plakkaat van Verlatingen was written in Dutch. Not the most aesthetically appealing language. Take, for example, the opening line. De leden van de Staten-Generaal van de Verenigde Nederlanden groeten allen.
Well, I guess, yeah, if you don't speak Dutch, you're gonna be thinking this is kind of weird. But for Dutch people, or I guess someone that speaks Dutch, this I would bet is normal, right?
Yeah, it just flows off the
because
back
you don't
of
speak
the
Dutch?
throat. And Het Plakkaat van Verlatingen, which is all about freedom, is abbreviated PVV. And these days the PVV has it's a different kind of freedom. Although, that guy also kind of hates Spain.
What do they hate Spain?
Difference number 3, real estate. In America, the Declaration of Independence is prominently displayed to make it look like it is etched in stone. In the Netherlands, the National Archives look like this. Behold, a building designed to look...
Oh my god, is that how it looks like? I'm gonna rewind this.
The National Archives look like this.
Okay, never in a million years would I have thought this was a government building, because, and even, this archive building, just because I think most places, I think, when they do the libraries or the archives and all those museums, it's kind of old looking. They usually use old buildings. So this one looks like a normal building that was maybe built like 10 years ago.
Behold, a building designed to look like the film set from RoboCop 2. And here's the display of Het Plakkaat van Verlatingen. It's all part of the Dutch philosophy, doe maar gewoon. Let's not get too excited about anything. And...
Oh, okay, maybe that's the point, right? It's very normal looking just because we're not I don't know, you don't have to acquire, you don't have to give, it doesn't give vibes of, oh, what an epic building. It's just whatever.
Difference number 4, there is no difference. In fact, the Dutch just had a whole TV show about the greatest showpiece of Dutch culture. And in true Dutch reality TV fashion, they chose Het Plakkaat van Verlatingen. Maybe it's because, in part, I myself made an appearance on the show. As both American and Dutchman, Nederlander, I can say yes, the Declaration of Independence owes a lot to het plakkaat van verlatingen. Or stole a lot from het plakkaat. Judge for yourself. Het plakkaat. Als een vorst zijn plichten niet nakomt, maar in plaats van zijn onderdanen te beschermen, probeert hen te onderdrukken. En als een tiran wordt beschouwd, dan staat het zeker zijn onderdanen vrij hem niet meer als vorst te erkennen. Declaration of Independence, whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it and to institute new government. So yeah.
Well, it wasn't stolen. I would argue it was inspired.
Yes, the Declaration of Independence was a little bit plagiarized from het plakkaat. And in America, we make such a big deal about the Declaration
and technically you can't copyright this, so whatever.
of Independence. But here, indeed, not enough people know about it, celebrate it. I think het plakkaat should have its own museum. And when the US president comes to open this museum, he will say, Declaration of Independence second, het plakkaat van verlatingen first.
They give what is it? They gave them a plate. Really did give them a plate. The plakaten. Yeah, it was really funny, but I think it's funny that he's mentioning, oh, it's plagiarism. It's not plagiarism. I understand he's joking about this, but I believe I didn't really, well, yes, I don't think I was previously aware of how much, because obviously the sort of the independence movement, I think it, depending on the country, it has been inspired by other countries and other places. I think all of those independence sort of times, usually around the 1700s, although I know not everyone has gained their independence in the 1700s, but I think most, let's say America, they gained their independence at some point during the 18th century? Yeah, 18th century, 18th and 19th century. But 18th and 19th century. But a lot of these things didn't really happen in a vacuum. They happened, they were being, you kind of feed on all those movements. I think they fed from other places and other types of movements, right? It creates a thing of a domino effect a little bit of, you hear, back in that time period, obviously not online, but I guess, they, back in those days, they must have heard, the stories, even the French Revolution and all of that, they were overthrowing monarchies all over the world. So I think that definitely influenced a lot of other movements, and it creates a domino effect if you hear, these people have been doing that, and wouldn't you like to be like that, just because, again, the monarchy, the government, the whatever, it's acting badly, it's acting poorly. So it gives you this inspiration probably, and I imagine this was the case with the US. I wouldn't actually, I personally, again, I don't know enough history about this, but I wouldn't necessarily assign all of, thanks to the Netherlands, the US could gain their independence. I think it's just, again, it didn't really happen in a vacuum. It was something of, you've been inspired by several other types of movements. And that sort of, again, it creates a ripple effect. And now everyone's sort of, we are being, I'm listening, I'm learning from other cultures, other places. So now I know what to do, and I can sort of replicate my own Declaration of Independence, and also I think the movement. So in this case, right, it's really funny because, again, do not know enough about how the Dutch, I know the war with Spain, it's kind of forgotten. I think it's just maybe because it happened such a long time ago. It was in the 1500s, which, again, that's really old, right? I think even the 1700s, it may not seem, well, it is old. Actually, it is quite old. But I think even imagine if the 1700s, it's something that seems so long ago. Imagine the 1500s. It was something that happened so long ago that, again, well, also did the Inquisition, and that's still, I think, fresh on everyone's minds. And when I speak about fresh, I'm talking in, I don't know, long in terms of, this happened. Not obviously as in people, I remember when that happened, clearly. But my point is that I think people just tend to forget about this. I think a lot of people do not really are aware or even remember if they did learn this at some point, in history or, in class or whatever. that Spain and the Netherlands were at war for so many years just because Spain wanted, well, it was a war, and it was part of Spain for a bunch of time, well, a bunch of years. But it's kind of weird because a lot of people just forgot about this. So it's one of the most forgotten wars in history for some reason. Again, if I start to think about this, I know that it's probably because, again, the Dutch have developed their own, I don't know, and maybe it's unfair of me to say, because I think all countries, once they gain their independence, they are quite, again, independent from the place where the country in which they gained their independence from. That with caveats, obviously, because rules of influence and of again, of just exerting some sort of power, they're going to leave their mark, even if it happened so long ago. Yes, but of course, you're still going to see the evidence, just because that's how things go. Look at the U.S. and the U.K. They have very, very different cultures, but at the same time, they do have a lot of similarities. Even the language, one of them. And you look at Spain and all of the other countries that they gained their independence from Spain, it's the same. Again, they speak the same language. There are several cultural things that are still being sort of felt to this day, just because it's only natural. Yes, you literally gained their independence from this culture, from this nation. There are a lot of similarities, just because it's really how it works. So yes, on one hand, that really keeps it, I think, fresh in everyone's minds, just because, again, it's kind of a similar culture. But in this case, again, with the Netherlands and Spain, I don't think there's a lot of similarities there. Even, they don't speak the same language. They are not even that close to each other. So, well, again, maybe that's really not fair, because, again, the other sort of powers, they had, a lot of subjects in all over the world. So maybe proximity doesn't really apply in this case. But, the language, the culture, they're just quite different. I do believe there are just not a lot of similarities there. So I think it's just easy to forget, oh, yes, of course, they were at war for a bunch of years. And also, just because the Netherlands, it's in Europe, I think and you obviously relate them as, they also had their own empire, and they were conquerors, and they had their own subjects, in a bunch of different parts of the world, in Africa and in Asia. So, it's not really a surprise that I think that period of time has been forgotten, just because you think of the Netherlands as this huge global superpower, and not specifically as, a country that had to gain their independence from someone. But I understand it was a little, I don't know, it's a little iffy, the reasons and the war, and it wasn't really the same circumstances. But still, I think it's just easy to forget about this. That, in this case, with the Declaration of Independence, in the case of the U.S. taking a lot of things, borrowing, I think, would be a nice term. It's not exactly stolen, because, again, you are going to feed from all of a bunch of other places, of other, I don't know, writings, and a lot of teachings and all of that, just because that's really how it works. Even it worked in the 1700s, and it's still how it works now. A lot of people are going to tell you that things don't really happen. Again, they don't really happen in a vacuum. You're just constantly sort of being fed influence. You're being influenced by so many other different factors, and it's a good thing. They inspire your work, they inspire whatever, I don't know, that you're creating. So it's good. You wouldn't call it, it's been plagiarized. No, it's not a plagiarism. It's just something that, I read this, and now, I think this really does resonate with what I want to do in this case. So when I do my own, in the case of the U.S., when they were writing the Declaration of Independence, I was thinking, I want to put into words something that resonated so much with me. I read it in the Declaration of Independence, in the Dutch Declaration of Independence, in the Van der Plaque, or whatever. So it's kind of like, don't exactly translate this. It's not a word for word translation, but it's gonna be I don't know, let's say summarized version, sort of change some words to make it the same. The feeling is the same, the actual vibe, yes, of course, they're going to be the same, but the writing, it's not. And of course, again, you can't copyright a Declaration of Independence. I'm pretty sure that's public domain in the US. Well, I don't know how it works in the Netherlands, but I would assume it's public domain. It's been a really long time. But yeah, so thankfully, I think because again, a lot of places, also got inspired from the U.S. Declaration of Independence. So technically, I guess that you could say, well, there's so many countries and so many nations that have been inspired indirectly by the Dutch Declaration of Independence. So again, it's sort of trickle down. So, thanks to the Dutch, I guess, their influence being felt in places, and in places that, I don't know, you couldn't have imagined they had a Dutch influence. Yes, it comes, by way of the US. So who knew? And that was it for today, and I'll see you next time. Bye!